Let's see.
There we go, Pat. We're live.
We are live. Ooh, we are live. Ooh.
If Jared were here, we would be laughing right now, but Jared's not here, so we
don't need to laugh. Let's laugh at that. Jared's not here.
Is Jared not coming, or is he late, or what?
Jared
is at a con in Birmingham, Alabama.
I knew that. Yes, one of my homes, one of my many hometowns, so to speak.
My hometown too, man.
It's not
really.
Mine.
You didn't know I was from Birmingham?
No, I know your connections to North Carolina now, but I didn't know where you came from originally.
Yeah, no, man. I was even though I was born in Texas on the Air Force Base, my folks are from Birmingham, and I was raised in Birmingham.
Oh, which high school?
West End High School is West Birmingham, which is now closed. Probably one of the more traumatic childhood memories that not childhood, but like probably early adulthood. They decided that they would demolish the school rather than fix it because there were so many problems with fixing the school. It was cheaper to raise it than it was to do it. So like I drove by my high school and it was just a big mound of rubble. And when I tell you that there's nothing more symbolic than, maybe there's a time to move on in your life. It's probably that the high school that you went to high school with was completely destroyed.
Would you say? Oh, go ahead, Devin. Finish.
No, I'm done.
I was just going to say, would you say that was kind of horrific seeing that?
Oh, I see what you're doing there. It's called a transition. I see that. Yes.
It wasn't a good
absolutely,
one, but I
Pat.
tried.
Good job.
Well, hello. Welcome, everybody. People watching in the chat. See, we got some people coming in right now. And I want to say hi to Aaron. We got Siskoid in the chat as well, too. He says, we're going to be my dinner date, guys. Well, what are you having for dinner? Chola's in the house. Hello. Oh, the Wolfpack in the house. We are going to be talking today about the top 5 horror or top 5 Halloween memories, stuff like that, because let's face it, some of us aren't into scary or horror stuff. And we are awaiting the Weasel Skull to join us. So he
came teasing us.
Hey, here we go.
So if you guys got your top 5 horror stuff in the chat, go ahead and as we go through, make sure to tell us and we can go ahead and say that in live as we go through it. So Siskoit says not too much interesting. Rice, chicken, jalapenos, and pineapples.
It's one of my favorite things. That's 4 of my favorite foods in one nice meal. I like it.
I like the hotness and the sweetness of the pineapple. Interesting.
I'm down with every bit of that.
Sweet pineapple.
Joining us is Van Allen Plexico, as you can see right down there below me.
If we have lists, we got to have Van.
Yep.
Van's great at lists. His Facebook feed is full of lists.
Yep, it is always.
So
I'm currently counting down my 30 favorite TV hour-long drama shows of all time, and we're on like number 13 now, I think, or 12. So
it's always good conversation starters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else with us. We got Delvin the Dark Web Williams is with us.
There you go. Got it right. Hi, Pat. Hello.
Hello.
I'm one of those who, as y'all well know, me and movies and lists are not my strongest suits, but I'm here anyway, and I'm sure I can pepper some random thoughts about either Halloween or horror movies throughout. I definitely don't want to discredit anyone who does have a love for horror films because I know that's something that people are super passionate about. But yeah, let's see where this goes. Let's have a good time.
Yeah, I've been kind of struggling with this too because I'm definitely not
really, Jason.
I'm not as big of a horror film watcher as say Jared is. I don't have a hard time coming up with 5 good ones. Don't get me wrong, but to me, it's like, how do I place them? There's so many interesting things. So my list is all up here right now, and it could change between right now and the moment that I start saying what's my number.
Somebody could bring up something too, and it'd be
Yep.
something you remember and kind of change your mind on your path you're going down.
What I'm saying is I got a strategy, but I can pull an audible here.
I myself too am the one that not really much into horror as well, watching horror movies, scary movies. I'm more into mysteries and sci-fi and sword and sorcerer and other things like that.
Yeah, Siskoid brings up a good point. Might be harder if you are a horror fan because there's such a huge pool to go to.
That's true.
I struggle with that a little bit with the cartoons one that we did last time. So many cartoons growing up. It's like, oh, which ones are my favorite? Yeah. Then you all would bring something up, and I was like, oh, why didn't I think of that one?
Yeah, it's almost in a way like the opposite. There were any number of, when I started thinking about cartoons I liked, just like, there's so many doggone cartoons I like. So I had to kind of narrow it down to where I am at this present moment on the cartoons that I watch, as opposed to like the all time. This is kind of the opposite, where I've seen any number of horror movies. Like I joke that, I've only seen like 8 movies. I've seen some horror movies, but like none of them, not none of them, like there just weren't many that struck out to me like that. So this is going to be an interesting discussion. I know that some of our watchers are going to have theirs, and I'm interested to see what Van and Jason have for their list too.
Good. Yeah, for me, I think it all kind of goes back to, because there's a bunch of great films out there, and I know, particularly as Van, as he starts saying some, I'm gonna be like, oh, why didn't I think of that one? But for me, I just kind of went back and said, which ones really had an impact on me as a kid? The ones that I really remember, that I really go back to. So that's kind of me. Like what I'm saying is, maybe mine aren't necessarily critically the best, or maybe they are. I don't know, but they're the ones that impacted me personally. So that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, why don't I give a transition to Jason, as he's going to kind of lead us through this discussion while I do some social media pressing out there. So before I do that, why don't you join me as well out there? Everybody watching, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share it out there with us as we begin our discussion on top 5 horror movies and Halloween memories.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Pat. And as always, before we get going here, it's always more fun if you participate in the chat. So if you're out there, let us know what your number 5 is. So let's kick it off. And I guess it's only right to start with our guest of honor. And Van, why don't you unveil to us what your number 5 movie is?
All right. I do have a couple of honorable mentions I got to get out there, and then I'll tell you number 5.
All right, Pat. I meant Van. Go ahead.
Is this a Pat move? Am I making a Pat move?
I tend to add a little extra stuff here and there, but
you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. Yeah, I couldn't fit Halloween, 1978's Halloween on the list, although that was the first big scary horror slasher movie I ever saw. And when I was a kid, it's pretty scary. And I couldn't fit Psycho in, even though I saw that in high school and had a big auditorium assembly to show that for some unknown reason. And I did want to give a little love to Body Double, that movie from the 80s. The Brian De Palma, I guess it was, Body Double, where there's a guy in a mask and our dude is watching him stalk this woman from it's almost like Rear Window. It's like an updated Rear Window, which is pretty cool. All right. My number 5, though, this one's got to be on there for me. This has just got to be on there. From the great 1984, the year of so many great movies, the great scary, yucky, horror, creepy movie of that year for me was The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing, with Kurt Russell and a spider head and stuff like that. That was just a great biting off dude's hands. I mean, that was some creepy, scary stuff right there. So The Thing is my number 5.
All right. Number 5, The Thing. I'm just going to Well, I'll go ahead. I'm going to skip everybody else because Great Minds Think Alike, Van. That was my number 5 as well. That's my go-to every Halloween. I watch the thing. I think
Awesome.
I think the great thing about it, no pun intended, is that it's one of those films where you don't know who the bad guy is, and you're eyeing everybody, and you kind of see it through Kurt Russell's eyes, and McCready's eyes, and you're just like, do I trust you? Do I trust you? And you just don't know. And it's just really a fun ride for the watchers. Now, for those of you that follow us on Action Film Face Off, you'll know that streaming right now, I think, was our 1951 Thing from Another World that was Jared's pick for our retro rewind. And that was the movie that the thing was based off of. And I enjoyed watching that as well. You could definitely see the influences. It's a little bit different, but
two quick things about that. One, that's the one with James Arness of Gunsmoke played the thing, which is kind of crazy. The Marshall Dillon. And number 2, that movie in turn was based on a short story called Who Goes There by, I can't think of his name now, but Astounding SF magazine's editor. He was mostly known for being the editor of Isaac Asimov and L. Ron Hubbard and Heinlein. All the great science fiction writers of the 40s and 50s worked under this guy. I can't think of his name, but he was the editor. John W. Campbell. Yeah, the great John W. Campbell. He edited all those other guys for Astounding Science Fiction, but he wrote that story, and it really did become as famous as basically anything that those other guys did. And there's a really good book about that called it's called Astounding, I think, and it came out just a couple of years ago. It tells the story of John W. Campbell and the writers that he edited and their wives, which is interesting too because it brings the women in too. Really, really good book called Astounding.
Well, those are some great knowledge bombs there, Van, and I love that title. Who Goes There? That that really sums up the premise of the plot pretty well there. All right, we kept the fellows here waiting long enough. Pat, why don't you reveal to us your number 5?
Well, being one that didn't watch a lot of horror, I really don't have a big number 1 through 5 list at all. So I'm either going to go with either something that I have watched from a long time ago, or it may be just a Halloween memory for me as well. But I'm going to start with, I think the last probably horror movie that I watched was Blair Witch Project.
Ooh, Blair Witch Project. That's a good one.
It's an older one, but I think that was my kind of turning point to where, I kind of got out of it watching some scary movies at that, but that was a good one to see in the theater because, man, that whole sensory, what they did with the video camera and just got in your mind of, is this real? Is there something out there? I kind of like that mystery of, finding out, was this just make believe? Was it just a big, tale that's been spun to find out whether or not it's real or not? And just the way they filmed it with the camera, again, making you think that you're following this documentary, really freaked me out. I think more of a good scary or a horror movie, if it messes with your mind and they don't have to show it, then that really gets your mind going because my mind's crazy.
Thing I remember most about that one was the marketing.
Yeah,
because like the advertising for it, they made it look like, is this a documentary or what is this? Yep. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Now let me ask you this, because when I actually watched the movie, I went to the theaters to see it, and I just remember getting like nauseous trying to follow like the shaky hand cams running around there. Did you find that like jolting at all, or
I don't think
it added to the fun?
Yeah, I don't think at the time I did, but I mean, I could see it where some people it could cause, some sort of
old too, so
it could cause some issues, but I didn't really have a problem with it at the time. I probably now, because I can go on a roller coaster like with the kids and it's like, hey man, I can't do this roller coaster anymore. And it's just one that just goes up and down like
Oh man, I can't. I don't know, going off a little bit of a tangent here, but I can't watch the kids play like on the new PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. Some of those games I can't watch because I start getting queasy. Okay. Siskoid says that Blair Witch was a game changer. Better or worse, depending on what you think of found footage movies, especially how it was multimedia. Yep, I agree. I think the marketing that went into that I thought was really cool, especially for when did that come out? Like late 90s, something like that?
Yeah, it was late 90s. And I remember it was whoever came up with the idea of how they wanted to advertise that was brilliant. That was what made that movie just millions and millions of dollars, was the advertising for it. Had they messed that up, that movie would have made about $15. No one would have wanted to go see it.
I think that's what Blair Witch made.
I didn't go see it, but I remember all of the buzz surrounding it. And if you create that much buzz, then you've done an excellent job promoting your movie.
Fair point. Yeah, before we hand it off to Delvin for his number 5, I think this is a good time to tell everybody or remind everybody, if it was mentioned while I was rebooting my router, that like I said, some of us aren't huge horror film watchers in here, so we're going to open up this list of Halloween memories, or even, if you got good sitting around the campfire spooky memories to tell. This is your venue to tell it. And I know that Delvin the Dark Web Williams has some good Halloween party memories from Auburn. So there's got to be at least one Auburn Halloween party story in here.
There would be. There actually would be. But before I, even mention anything like that, I wanted to mention that I was having a discussion with Angelica, with Chola. And she was mentioning that, there's a difference between a horror movie and a Halloween movie. And so I asked her, what, the difference was. And I think she had a good explanation of saying, hold on, I don't want to. She was just saying Halloween movies aren't always scary, like a Hocus Pocus, where horror has an aim to scare. And I can agree with that. And so she sort of divided her list into 2 different realms, like where her number 5 Halloween movie is Scream, which, by the way, was the one movie that I thought of when it came to the horror genre. And I don't know, there's something about especially the first one that made me think more than just that shock value of trying to scare me. Because after a while, I don't know, I go to a movie to be intrigued in any number of ways, just to be scared. And that's kind of the reason why I veer away from horror movies. Not even because they scare me, but because my mind just keeps running. And I'm still thinking about that thing. I'm trying to fall asleep and I'm still thinking about how somebody died in some grotesque way. I'm like, man, I don't want to be thinking about this. but Scream did a very modern day take of the horror movie, to where it became more of a psychological thriller, and that intrigued me a lot. So that's what made me enjoy it a lot. So I at least wanted to bring one movie to the table, and that would be Scream. So I'm glad I matched up with what Angelica had to say.
Yeah, that was a good movie. That's one that I went to the theaters to see as well. I mean, there was some good mystery in there. There was some humor in it. That I think that it was a well put together film. I think that's a good call, Delvin. Auburn Ellis says, "Are we including It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown?"
Oh,
yeah. Stand by.
Yeah,
He make the list.
Yeah, it's absolutely a horror movie for certain. Not horror movie, but Halloween movie for certain.
Well, for a kid at the time, man.
Every Charlie Brown show is a horror for somebody, usually for Charlie Brown.
It's a horror show. It's a horror movie for Linus.
Every Charlie Brown show is a horror. Oops, sorry.
Oh man! On that great note, I think it's time to hit number 4, and let's start the round again. Van, give us your number 4.
Well, my number 4 is kind of boring and predictable, but hopefully my 1, 2, and 3 will be a little more interesting for you. But I had to include this one in my list somewhere. I just recently rewatched it and really enjoyed it, and and think that it works certainly as a horror movie as well as a science fiction movie. And that's Alien, the first Alien of 1979, because it really is kind of a haunted house. You're trapped in a haunted house with a monster. And the fact that it's in space is incidental, really. Just a few of the trappings, But it's just got so much atmosphere, so much mood. I mean, that to me is what a lot of these movies have to have. And I was going to say, as far as Blair Witch Project goes, I went and I had to go see that at like an art house theater in Atlanta. It was the only way to go see it because, Delvin, you were exactly right. It was the marketing that made that movie. I wouldn't have had any interest other than just everybody was talking about it. There was a website. You actually go see the movie. It has nothing to do with anything that any of the promotional stuff had. There's no witch. There's no conspiracy. It's a bunch of kids in the woods and people are shaking their tin at night. That's the whole freaking movie right there. And I'm like, yeah, this is stupid. But it certainly did the thing it was trying to do well, which was titillate everybody and get them excited to go. So yeah. But no, I have Alien because I think it deserves to be on the list, and it was just a classic, and I mean, everything about it is just so well done, even the effects and all. It still holds up to this day, I think. So.
Oh man, what's more? I guess if we were playing match game like an action film face-off, Van and I would be in lockstep because that was going to be mine as well.
Wow.
Yeah, little story to tell because Alien came out, when was that? 1978, 79. So I was 8 years old at the time. And I had just, a couple years earlier had seen Star Wars. So I'm all in on the sci-fi at this point, right? Yep. Anything sci-fi that's coming out, I want to see it. I'm all on board with, Buck Rogers, Star Trek The Motion Picture, yada, yada, yada. Alien comes out and I tell Mom and Dad, I want to see this movie. Mom and Dad say, heck no, you're not going to go see this movie because number one, it's a horror movie and, you're 8 years old. It'll give you nightmares. And number two, it's rated R, so you can't go see it. So I was like, oh, man, nuts. But unbeknownst to them, because they used to take us to this used bookstore and let us buy some books, they were selling the novelization, the Alan Dean Foster novelization to Alien. So I put down my quarter for it. I took it home. They had no idea. So at night, when I'm going to bed, I'm reading chapters of Alien, and it scared the bejesus out of me. I had nightmares for about 3 weeks straight, and it was like I kept doing it. I was like, I know I'm gonna have nightmares, but I gotta read this book. And so it was that one had a very profound memory for me. I actually read the novelization before I saw the movie, but then I saw the movie. Loved the movie, of course. But yeah, so that's how that one got in on my number 4.
I had the comic adaptation that Walt Simonson did before I saw the movie, so very similar.
Very good, very good.
Well, I can talk about Alien because
that's right, you can. I think you might have done
yeah, I did a Monday monthly movie
muck about.
Yes, with Rick, and Jared picked out that movie because he assumed that I hadn't watched it, and he was right, and I hadn't. And watching it for the first time and seeing the buildup and everything where it's coming, and who the bad guy is going to be, but it took a long time. I mean, they drug it out, not in a bad way either. It was in a very meaningful way to where you knew something terrible was on board, and then by the time that they revealed the alien and just in all of its horror, it's like, oh my goodness. And yeah, you could definitely understand why Sigourney Weaver had the PTSD that she had returning with Aliens, because that just sounds like a horrible, horrible experience that no one would ever want to have to go through. It was a fantastic movie. Alien and Aliens were both amazing movies.
Now I understand this is a very slim chance because the alien birth, that scene, it's been so memorialized in pop culture, satirized in some cases. You likely have seen it and knew it was coming, but did you know it was coming, or was that a surprise to you?
Oh yeah, I've seen Spaceballs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so, Spaceballs. All right, no question.
You've seen Spaceballs, but not Star Wars?
I've seen Star Wars. What makes you think I never saw Star Wars?
No, at least the holiday special.
I know that. Yeah.
Holiday special. Yeah, because I mean, gosh, I wish that, like, I wonder what that was like going into the movie theater, having no idea that that's coming, and seeing that scene. Because I like you guys, I had, either read the comic or read the novel or seen, you know, so I just don't know what that experience is. To not have any idea that that's coming and seeing that alien pop out must have been like.
I think I read somewhere that
terrible.
like one of the producers that bought the script and got it to Ridley Scott, something like somebody gave him the script and didn't tell him anything, just said read it, and they're like sitting there, and like after about 30 minutes, he's all of a sudden goes, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "Yep, I know what page you're on."
And I don't know if it was I don't know if this was just urban legend or whatnot, but I thought I can't remember the name of the actor, but it was the other woman that was on the ship that wasn't
Cartwright.
Yeah.
Nancy Cartwright.
Yeah, Nancy Cartwright. I'd heard somewhere that they didn't show her that part in the script, and so they just like,
wow.
So they wanted to get somebody's reaction, like cold, like not knowing what's going on, and so I don't know if that's true or not, but she has an absolute look of terror on her face. So it was like either great acting or this like an interesting strategy by the
Veronica Cartwright. There's a bunch of Cartwrights, and they're not related, and that was Veronica.
Okay.
I was gonna say, isn't Nancy Cartwright like? Isn't that Bart Simpson?
Bart Simpson. Yeah, there's a bunch of Cartwrights. They're not related, and they're all in Hollywood. It's all ed up with Cartwright.
Aren't they fighting for some land dispute too?
at the Ponderosa. Yes.
Okay.
We have gone way off down the trail on this. All right. Alien comes in at van in my number 4. Pat, number 4 movie, show, memory. What you got?
Oh, I thought we were talking about what we like to get at the Ponderosa or the Bonanza when you're at the all you can eat. Where do you go to first? Do you go for the meat? Do you go for the dessert, or what do you do?
I've got to go for the meat first, man.
Yeah.
Get that steak. Build everything around the steak.
Well, again, not being a horror or scary movie kind of guy, I'm gonna go with one that I kind of like, and kind of down the Auburn Elvis area there, where he said Charlie Brown Halloween. That was a good one. But I'm gonna go with one that made me reinvigorate my love for this character, and I guess the whole gang. It was Scooby Doo Zombie Island.
Ooh,
when they brought back that movie kind of started the whole Scooby Doo again. And that particular one, was it actually something that was happening? It was more of, they didn't get to really pull a mask off or kind of do something like that. So it was more of a, wow, this is kind of taking it down a different road for Scooby Doo. And I thought it was really cool. And I think it opened up, a path for them to start doing all these, movies to video, stuff like that. And so then you had The Witch's Ghost was another one. And it was something I could sit and enjoy watching it with my family and my kids as they were growing up. Is a movie I think I still have it on VHS yet.
Yeah, Drake and I still watch it to this day.
Yeah. It's still a good, decent, fun movie to watch. So, and Scooby Doo is one of my favorite ones that I like to watch. And just going back and watching those the older original cartoons like that too, had some scary vibes in it. Like, one that freaked me out was always that robot guy, and in the older one where you're at the circus and there's a robot guy, he pokes out and he kind of sees it like that. And as a kid, man, that could traumatize you, some of those.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about that, and Scooby Doo is one of my favorites growing up, as I mentioned on the cartoons. And it was interesting as a kid because, they always give you a creepy environment. So they scare you just enough as a kid, right? So there's a ghost, or there's a monster, or a vampire, or something that's tracking the gang in some sort of spooky environment. And the thing that was interesting, because and I thought about it because as a kid, though, at the end, there's always the unmasking.
Yes.
Right. So you know that it's coming. You know, it's like, okay, I'm a little bit scared as a kid, but I know that there's really some human, usually as an adult, lesson that I learned as a kid. Don't trust any adults, man, because they're all up to some shenanigans. And so that, so that reveal kind of like lets off the steam at the, okay, they scare you just enough, and then they let off the steam. Okay, it's a real person and blah, blah, blah. With that zombie island, that didn't happen. And in fact, I believe there's a scene where Fred like tries to pull the mask off the zombie and is like, oh, it's a real zombie. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. Like you said, it was a bold new direction.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Delvin, give me your number 4. Film, movie, book, comic, story, history, event.
I'm happy to continue stealing from people. I was gonna come, like with random rants, and I might get to those in a second. But one of the movies I saw that popped up that I did watch and I did like was Get Out, which was relatively recent. And with Jordan Peele directing it, I like his too, because again, it's kind of a similar thing to where, like the movie was it was that edge of horror to where, you just almost feel like your hair rising on the back of the neck. Like, something is off with this family. And what is it? And why are these people acting so weird? And of course, personally, I'm not going to remember the lead character's name right now, but Daniel Kaluuya is his name. But he was in a movie, and like when he got to the point where he thought that he may have been brainwashed or whatever, and he still was kind of like, I'm going to stick around here for a little bit. That would have been my Get Out moment. It would have been like, okay, it is broad daylight. I am out of here. I don't know what that. And sure enough, he stayed, and it just descended into madness. And it, they invented the whole sunken place thing and everything. And it was scary in the right places, and it was a good psychological thriller in the right place, and it was funny in the right places too. So Jordan Peele has that kind of newer edge to the horror genre. He really has it down. I didn't get to watch Us. Miranda did, and she told me about it. And I think they're going to do a sequel to it. But I know that Get Out was really good. So if I ever did watch Us, I would, because Jordan Peele, he knows how to do it.
Yeah, I told you that there was going to come a moment where somebody was going to throw something out there, and I'm like, oh, why did I put that in my top 5? And that moment has come. Yeah, that definitely was a great film. The thing that struck me with it that I remember most is the scene where he's under the, I guess, hypnosis in the sunken place, I guess, for lack of a better term, and just the way that that's filmed, man. I mean, I was sitting in the movie theater watching that, and I just felt pressed, like that feeling you get where you want to move and you can't.
Yeah.
And it's, just well done film. All right. I think we've gone through number 4. It's time to do number 3. Number 3, Van, what do you got?
Go to my index card, my carefully wrought collection of scary. Ooh, scary.
Oh, scary.
Would you like some more pancakes? Ooh, whoop, ooh, whoop, ooh, whoop. I miss Dr. Tongue's Evil 3D House of Pancakes. That was SCTV was so good. And Count Floyd. Ooh, boys and girls. Ooh, that was scary. Yeah. Ooh, scary. God, I loved SCTV was so great. Anyway, speaking of funny things that are also scary, my number 3 is funny and scary in equal measure, probably more funny than scary, because this is where we kind of diverge, and I don't think we're going to meet up again, Jason. Because I'm going number 3, Army of Darkness, 1992.
Good choice, but you're right.
It's got Bruce Campbell and it's got so many one-liners and classic moments that just live forever. There's even the two different endings. One is like the scary, sad ending where he's slept for 1,000,000 years and the world has collapsed. And then there's the other ending at S-Mart where he shoots the shotgun at the flying witch ghost thing, and it's like, she goes, "I'll devour your soul. Come get some." Oh, it's so great. It's so great. So, Army of Darkness, number 3.
Shop smart. Shop
smart.
Yeah, they had some great one-liners in there, man. That this is my boomstick.
Oh, so many.
Oh, yeah. What were your thoughts of the other Evil Dead films?
I don't like them as much because they really are like low budget horror, and that's not really my thing. I liked the sort of fantasy with a dark edge to it and humor thing. I felt like the director, the Spider-Man director, obviously did these too.
Sam Raimi.
Raimi, yeah, who I guess is directing the Doctor Strange movie coming up, if I remember correctly.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, Raimi. So, yeah, I feel like he kind of grew up and got his legs under him as a director, and really can do some fantastic stuff. So,
yeah, I'm starting to see some quotes coming in here. Auburn Elvis says, "Good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun."
And the chainsaw.
That's just what we call pillow talk, baby. Oh man, some great one-liners there.
There are. It's so good.
I heard that with that movie that it was supposed to be a horror movie, but it was so campy that it wound up becoming that cult classic that it was. But they originally intended for it to be a traditional horror movie. Is that correct?
Well,
I don't know, but
yeah, I'm not sure if I'm not exactly 100% sure. I only know, and that was kind of my leading question to Van, was what he thought of the other Evil Dead movies. Because when the Evil Dead movies came out, I wasn't really interested in seeing those. But when Army of Darkness came out,
exactly,
like Van, I was looking at because there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. You got some, medieval guys on horseback. You got like little demon armies running around. I was like, this is something I could buy into. And then just the lines, the one-liners, the campy humor. It just made it a lot more fun. Then I went back and I watched the other Evil Dead movies, and I was like, they're okay. Definitely much darker and more skewed towards the horror element. To me, I think definitely Army of Darkness was the pinnacle there of the Evil Dead series. Let's see. So Siskoid says there's no beating the chills of the original Evil Dead movie. That's true. Army of Darkness is the most pure fun. I recommend the Ash versus the Evil Dead TV series because it's more like that, but returns to the old house, etc. That's a good point. Does that Ash versus the Evil Dead TV series make your top 30 at all, Van?
I've never seen it, but I'm not against it. I just haven't ever happened to catch it, but I wouldn't mind watching. And I love the show he did, Jack of All Trades, where he was Thomas Jefferson's secret agent on a tropical island with a beautiful British blonde lady. So if he's good in that, I'm sure he's good in an Evil Dead show too. I have to check it out.
I haven't seen that Jack of All Trades. Now I'm interested in that.
It's on DVD, or you could drop me an email or something, and I could hook you up. But it's really funny.
All right, yeah. I Bruce Campbell. Last thing I remember him being in was Burn Notice.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought wasn't he in Burn Notice as the
Axe.
Yeah,
his the right hand man. All right, well, let's keep this thing rolling along here. Oh, what do we got here? Okay, pause and check.
Let me there we go.
Oh, nice. All right, got it. Have to put that on my watch list. All right, Pat. Give me your number 3.
Oh boy. I'm gonna go with a memory on this one for a Halloween memory. And I'm gonna go back as a kid And so what would happen on Halloween night, growing up as a kid, a local radio station would have what they call like a Halloween party for the kids to listen to. And they would play, Monster Mash, all these other kind of Halloween-y songs, and just do some stuff that in studio they may have. I think they had kids that were there. It sounded like they did, but I couldn't tell because I never got invited to it. But you would, throughout the week or weeks leading up to Halloween, you would kind of send in your name, and then they would put it into a big, ball or thing that you would roll, and a raffle thing like that, and you would win prizes throughout the night. And so they would have, again, music, different kind of stories, scary stories, somewhat, pretty, PG related stories that they would tell throughout the night. And you could win prizes as you go. So as a kid, you would get your Halloween candy. Once you're done trick or treating, then you would come home and rush home to listen to this show that night to see, did you win something or not? And I would say years gone by, a few years ago by, and then finally I won.
What'd you win?
I got my name called.
Waiting for it. I was waiting for it. What'd you win?
I got my, and so what happened is local companies would donate, prizes and that and different things like that. I ended up winning it was a tic-tac-toe toss across.
Oh.
And so, you got to throw the bean bag and,
those are awesome.
Yeah. I remember that game. Yeah. My cousin had one of those. We'd always start playing, toss and cross, but then it'd always devolve into we're trying to beam each other with the beam.
But I was just, it was pretty cool to, when you hear your name on the radio that you listen to all the time, and you would hear different kids around the city area that you knew would win. And it was really cool. And then I think it probably took I don't think I really picked it up until early December. So it took about a month. Once you claim, you had to go to the radio station, claim your prize, and then go pick it up I think you actually had to go to the dealer or the vendor that gave it. So
how old were you when you won? 34?
Oh boy. Yeah.
I'd keep playing. I'd keep throwing my name in. I would.
I don't know if they still do it or not, but they did it for quite a long time as growing up. So
did you do it with your kids? Did your kids do it as well?
I think they stopped doing it. The radio station kind of stopped doing it. It went through some different hands and changes. So I think they stopped doing that.
Oh man. That's fun though. That's always fun when you win. So, my brother, yard sale artist, Death Probe there. He would always win. I never won anything, but they'd be like, oh, a 2-liter bottle of Coke goes to Jared Albrecht, and he'd be like, I'm enjoying this whole thing myself. I was like, can I have a little cup, a little Dixie cup? I want it. It's
mine. Yeah, I just thought it was kind of a cool thing that cities did or something like that did. I remember too at one time our high school had a big gathering as well too. So all the kids can come in, kind of like a safe Halloween party that you could come in and just had some games you could do and just kind of walk around with your costume on, see everybody.
That's fun.
The good old days. I don't think a lot of places do that anymore.
Nah, I remember as a kid, man, it's just Halloween used to be just like this event because mom and dad would take me down to, I don't know, it's like Sears or J.C. Penney's or whatever, where they would have the Halloween with those costumes that were in the box with the mask. And there's so many. There's Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader or C-3PO. And they're like, oh, you can choose one. You can choose one for Halloween. And that was always that was that year's hardest decision. What am I going to go as for Halloween? And you just get that magical box and just the art on the box. And, the costume's just kind of a cheap POS.
Plastic,
it's
going to fall apart on a garbage bag.
Yeah, by the end of the night. But, man, it just was always so much fun. Oh, but I might be taking somebody's number 3. So
I'm the only one left. I don't mind because since I don't have a formal list here, but again, borrowing. I remember this as a kid. I didn't really borrow it from anyone else's list. I remember being genuinely scared of Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street when it first came out, because the thought that there was some horrible creature with these Wolverine claws, basically, that can come after you while you're sleeping. And of course, they're always going after teenagers and everything. Always the teenagers.
Yeah.
But it was really scary. And I just remember thinking of how freaking scary it was. And I think it was a super inventive idea. I mean, such an inventive idea that Robert Englund never really had to find another job in his life. Nope. He could still pimp out the Freddy Krueger stuff, and people will still eat it up. But I mean, that's a sign of a character that people, had that, love scare relationship with. If you can take that original idea and people still want to see some version of it in some form. So I will mention the Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and particularly Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, I think with Robert Englund, it's like the minute you see that guy, it's like, okay, when's he going to turn or what's going to happen? It's like, what was Nightmare on Elm Street after V, when he was in V?
Oh, that's right. He was in V. That's right.
At the same time, it seems like early mid 80s.
Yeah.
There's a Rick and Morty where Freddy Krueger goes home to the family with the wife with the claws.
Scary Terry. Yeah, I just watched that one.
Just destroys Freddy Krueger.
Man, yeah, I'll tell you, I was never big into the slasher horror. So like the Friday the 13th never really appealed to me, especially because it's like, oh, it became Jason, and so they're, oh, it's Jason, watch out, never.
Did you guys did you guys see the trailer for the Halloween, whatever the new one is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it, and I see that's another horror movie that I've seen. I saw Halloween H2O when it came out because I was in college, and I know it had to have something to do with getting to see it free because Jared probably had to preview it at the theater, and it was not good. Like after a certain point, I was just like, okay, so how do you even kill Michael Myers? No matter what happened to him, he just popped right back up and just kept walking and beheading people or killing people in these horrible ways. I never did understand the point of it.
No.
Yeah, I was wondering who was going to bring up Johnny Depp getting offed in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Yeah, that is true. I was going to say, though, there was something different, I think, about Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was older when I saw the first one because I just kind of avoided it. I think I was talking with Jared, and he kind of convinced me to watch it. And again, there's just something about that psychological aspect of it. Of somebody being able to haunt you in your dreams. Because we all know that eventually we're going to fall asleep. You can't avoid it. You can't. I mean, you can delay it for so long, but and that just kind of puts that seed in your mind. Like, what happens when I go to sleep? This is where I'm the most vulnerable, and there's something quite terrifying about that. So,
but you have Dokken to defend you with
Dream Warrior. I want to dream. No,
I love Dokken. I was so excited when they got.
So do I. I'm a big Dokken fan. Back for the attack.
Okay, so that's what we do when we go to bed. We put some Dokken on the.
Yeah.
Go to sleep listening to Dokken. That's how we fight and win against Freddy Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's come around to me for number 3 here. And again, I'll have to tell another story. Wait,
this is number 2.
No, it's my number 3 because I.
Are you the last? I thought you were. I thought you went. Oh, okay, my bad.
No, I jumped in line because 5 and 4, Van and I were simpatico, but we're not simpatico on number 3. Although I do applaud his choice. Mine was a little different, like I said, based off of my own personal memories of childhood. So back in the day, we used to go to a thing called the drive-in movie theater, where you could go and see double features, sometimes triple features. And Mom and Dad threw me in the back. That's why they make melatonin. Thanks, Courtney. That they threw me in the back of the car, and we went to see a Steven Spielberg double feature, to be exact. And it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Jaws. And the deal was Close Encounters of the Third Kind was the first movie playing, and Jaws was the second movie that was playing. I was allowed to see Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and I think it was assumed I was going to fall asleep and sleep through Jaws and be spared that, that film. Again, I'm like, about 7 years old at this point. And I don't know if anybody, I'm sure most people have seen Close Encounters. Great movie, wonderful movie, masterpiece, not something built to hold the attention of a 7-year-old. No. So I fell asleep during Close Encounters, slept right through it. So I woke up ready to go for Jaws. And I don't know if Mom and Dad realized it, but I was watching the whole thing from the backseat of that car. And I was terrified by the end of it. So Mom used to she'd run the bubble bath, right? Okay, time to, take a bath. And I like to have the bubble bath, but I kept asking her, don't put any bubbles in that bubble bath, man. Because if I couldn't see the water, I was like, I did not want to get in it. I was like, I don't know what's in this water, man. I don't know.
A bubble bath.
I was like, don't put any bubbles in the bubble bath, man. So yeah. So that was my number 3, Jaws. Jaws scared me so much it scared me off of bubbles. So
love it. That's a great story.
So that's my number 3, Jaws. No disrespect to Close Encounters, just not something for a 7-year-old. I mean, you got to have aliens with laser guns and spaceships and stuff. Keep my attention.
I agree.
All right. Well, we're rounding it out here. We're heading into number 2 territory. Who does number 2 work for? Van, regale us.
We're going to number 2. All right, I'm zagging instead of zigging a little bit here or something or other. I don't know if it's technically a horror movie. It's not a Halloween movie, but it is kind of a thriller, and it does involve like reincarnation and murderers and all this kind of stuff, and it's got very atmospheric. This is a Kenneth Branagh film from 1991.
Okay, interesting.
Called Dead Again.
I remember the title. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
It stars Branagh and Emma Thompson, who was his wife at the time. Mm-hmm. And it's set in the present day, where he is a police detective or a private detective, I forget which, and she is an amnesiac who's being kept at a convent or something while they try to figure out who she is. And then it cuts back to the 1920s. And he is a famous composer, and she is his wife. And then apparently he murders her. And now in present day, they've been reincarnated in Los Angeles as these two people. And when she sees him, she's sure that in the previous life, he murdered her because he's the detective coming to try to help her. And when she sees him, she's like, you're the one that tried to murder me, And so it really gets into a very interesting psychological horror thing about who's the murderer and did they really live a previous life and all this kind of stuff. It's really, really well. It's a very Alfred Hitchcock thing. I think it's Branagh kind of trying to do Hitchcock.
That's interesting. Yeah. Is we haven't really mentioned a Hitchcock film yet, have we? That's interesting.
Kind of got to mention Hitchcock when it comes to horror, right?
Yeah. That is very interesting.
There was some mention in the chat, like Psycho and things like that.
That's true. Yep. So the Dead Again. That's what it's called, huh?
Yeah, Dead Again.
1990.
91. It's got 91. A surprise scene appearance with Robin Williams, uncredited, I believe, too, where he's really good in it.
Huh. Okay. I may need to check that one out. Okay. That's a new one for me. Dead Again. Anybody else seen it?
I have not.
Looks like Auburn Elvis has.
I knew we could pick up on that. Okay. So that's what you're saying. The ending is a tiny bit too campy, otherwise a very solid film. All right. Well, we all learn a little something from these chats.
Hold on, real quick. Doubtful, Auburn Elvis. Very, very doubtful. Just wanted to add that. Okay, Jason, back to you.
Yeah. Oh, I have no doubt that is wrong. All right, Pat. Number two. Sorry, number two.
Oh man, it's just chatting with you guys and seeing the stuff in the chat too. I'm going through a couple different things, so I think I'm gonna maybe do a double thing here and just say two things. One, Poltergeist.
Oh, there's the Pat we know and love.
If Van could do it,
that's
then,
true.
You know,
that is
I'm
true.
going to call it my Van runner-ups. One would be Poltergeist. Just that first movie, man, that's a freaking movie as a kid. And to this day, I cannot eat hamburger and rice together because the rice looks like little maggots when it's mixed with the hamburger meat.
That was a scene.
Now somebody who's going to eat rice tonight. Anybody want Chinese?
I'm good. It won't dissuade me. It's fine.
But that still is a kind of freaky, scary movie as well too. Just that kind of plays with your mind.
I am kind of glad you brought that one up because that's one that I'd considered but wasn't going to make the cut. I will say, interesting story with Poltergeist because I'm with you. I mean, I think we're pretty close.
We're pretty close in age.
And so when I saw it, I mean, that scared. I mean, that clown scene just scared the crap out of me. And then, so fast forward, a couple of years later, they did that remake not too terribly long ago. My kids, I watched it and it was kind of trash. But I told the kids, I was like, oh man, the original was way better, way scarier, and so I talked to them, okay, let's watch the original. I put it on and it's like, man, it does not hold up. The kids were not scared at all.
And I think at the time too is during these scary movies at that time, you had the build up around it. You didn't have the social media quick stuff that you have right now. So either you had, you had all this mystery around it later on, like, oh, this was done on a real burial, and all the, the mystery that was going around, kind of just like, 3 Men and a Baby. Oh, there was, if you look, you see somebody in the window with a ghost shows up, and you had all this kind of crazy stuff that you didn't know was true or not, and either you saw it in a magazine or something like that. So you were like, wow, this, was it real? Is it fake? You don't know. Was it a real story or not?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was. I think the other thing about the original too is, to me, the cast was just so much more interesting. The family seemed so much real. It seemed like it could be any. Could have been my family. Could have been your family. It's like they were very relatable characters. Yeah. I'll put it that way. And so that kind of plants a seed, and you're like, could this happen to me? Like, I don't know. Is that little clown toy that I got looking at me kind of funny? I'm not sure I want to keep that thing lying around.
Yeah. The only other one I want to mention, kind of in line with this one, is, now that I remember, I'd say maybe a few years ago, this was out on Netflix. And so I was able to watch it as my daughter was kind of watching it throughout the summer as she was kind of binging some things. And so I would catch bits and pieces of it as she was watching it. And it's The Haunting of Hill House. If you haven't watched that on Netflix, that was kind of a, kind of freaky, scary thing that was going on to series that, when I was home, I'd sat and watch it. And to be like, oh, maybe I should get back to work or get back to doing something else. It did intrigue me and had some really weird things going on too. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I know that was a series on there. I guess I didn't watch it because I'd seen the movie, The Haunting at Hill House. So I was like, do I really need to watch this television series about it? But I don't know. So you're saying it was pretty good then, huh? Maybe.
Yeah, it caught my interest on it as my daughter was kind of watching through that series.
Okay, I let that one pass by. Maybe I need to give that a look. All right, so those were your honorable mentions. What's your What's your actual?
That's my 2 and my
Oh, okay. You're gonna wrap those 2 up as a number 2. Got it. Okay, Poltergeist and Haunting of Hill House, the Netflix series. All right. Move it over to Delvin. What's your number 2?
Well, I don't think anyone has mentioned M. Night Shyamalan yet. And
that is true.
And he's had some pretty good modern day thrillers. So I'll just, if I had to pick a movie, I'd say Sixth Sense, because I remember the drama and intrigue of that. To use young kids' phrase, he was in his bag back then. Like, I mean, because that movie kept me captivated as to what is going on, what is the mystery, why is this kid freaking out the way that he is. And then when the big reveal came that, Bruce Willis was dead and that all this guy, he was seeing dead people, and it was a fantastic suspenseful movie that definitely kept you, Pat, on the seat of your seat. So and he did that. I also thought that Signs was pretty haunting. The thing that I've always liked about M. Night Shyamalan's movies, is that he always delivers on whatever he is. It's like they on Signs, they kept teasing aliens, and you're like, are we actually going to see an alien? Sure enough, at the end of the movie, there's this alien. Like, oh my goodness, okay, they actually showed a freaking alien. This is scary. So, like, he always delivers on that. It doesn't leave you hanging on that. So, I like especially his earlier movies. I got some enjoyment out of. I heard that things about what's the one that just came out? Where is it Old? Where people go to this island and they age rapidly. That's an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
It is, yeah.
And that looks intriguing.
Seen it, but I saw the trailer for it. It does look interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say that. I think Sixth Sense is probably his most critically acclaimed one. But I liked Unbreakable. As a comic book fan, I thought was also really good.
Yeah, that whole Unbreakable and what's that?
People Under the Stairs too. Didn't he do that one?
I don't think he did People Under the Stairs.
I think he did Lady in the Water.
Oh. He did Lady in the Water. Mm-hmm. And what was Son of a Gun?
I know you're
Glass. What was the sequel to Unbreakable? It was Glass, right?
Yeah.
And then the movie before that led into that with McAvoy.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of it, but I know what you're talking
about. That was another freaky scary movie.
Yeah, Split got it.
Split was scary. Yeah. Thanks, Cisco. Yeah. Split's one I could absolutely mention as another scary movie. That captured my attention. And McAvoy, man, he was so good in that movie. So yeah,
Woods.
It's worth mentioning M. Night Shyamalan though.
Yeah, I like The Woods too. I thought that was also an interesting one. Yeah, I will say Shyamalan. So they kind of had some hits and misses in there, but at least they're creative. Everything he puts out there is interesting, at least in concept, if not always in execution. But yeah, oh man, Sixth Sense. Like I said, there's another one that skipped by me as I was putting my top 5 together. That definitely is one I should have at least considered. All right, so it's number 2 time for me, and but it literally not figured. You know what I mean. Time for my number 2.
That's after the show, Jason.
Yeah. Somebody take over. This is where it was tough. I think I'm going to go with a Netflix property too. Fairly recent, very popular amongst the folks, and that's Stranger Things.
Oh, good.
I was thinking about that. I didn't watch it as religiously, but I was thinking about it. Sorry, Jason, keep going.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, Stranger Things was one of those that that grabbed me, hooked me, and actually made me want to binge watch. I don't binge watch a lot of things. I don't like binge watching. I like to watch an episode or maybe two and give it a chance to breathe and digest.
Marinate on it.
Yeah, and come back. I kind of miss the days, when
wait a week.
Must see TV, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Friday night, got to watch my X-Files, which might be giving you a hint to what's coming up. But Stranger Things was the exception. I was like, I've got to see what happens next. I've got to see what happens next. And I think the thing that I liked about it the most was it did this good job of, we've talked about the different types of horror. You kind of had the psychological, you had the slasher, and you had that suspense horror. And it did a really good job of blending all three of those things, putting it into this little town with rich, interesting characters, mixing it with a lot of fun, a lot of pop culture references back to my childhood. So it just was, it was did a masterful job of putting a lot of elements of things together that I really, really enjoyed. So that's my number 2. That's Stranger Things.
I always say that it's like it's based on a Stephen King novel from the 80s that doesn't actually exist.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, man, I never looked at it that way, but you're right. You could definitely see elements of like Stand By Me and and things like that in the film. And it's just interesting too, because it occurs like in some, it was like Indiana or and having grown up in Indiana, it's like nothing ever happens there. So it's like, wow, this is interesting. It's gonna happen to me. It didn't. Nothing happened. Could have.
No giant Cthulhu monsters showed up at your malls. That's amazing.
No, none at all. All right. Well, we've come to the number 1, and it's time to reveal top film, top show, top memory of Halloween. Vance got his list ready. Regale us, man. Let's go.
Well, let's to recap. Number 5 was The Thing. Number 4 was Alien. Number 3 is Army of Darkness. Number 2 is Dead Again. This is another one that humor plays a very big part in. Some might say more than it does scary stuff. My number 1 is the great Larry Blameyer's 2001 classic, The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. Yes. The Lost. You will be the bride of the Lost Skeleton.
You gotta help us out. I've never seen it. Jason, have you seen it?
Heard of it?
I have seen The Lost Skeleton of.
They need to run right out, do they not, Jason?
They do. And the only reason why I've seen it is because Jared and Jordan, when I visited last time, said, you need to see this movie. And so I know of this masterpiece that Van speaks. But go ahead. Tell them why, Van.
We are going to do science.
That's right.
It is a black and white 1950s looking film where Larry Blameyer and his beautiful TV blonde wife go up to a mountain cabin to look for atmospherium, some strange element from outer space that will help him do science, only to encounter the minions of the Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. You there, fool! Pick me up. Take me out of this cave. The Lost Skeleton is just a skeleton that lies there and gives orders. And at one point, aliens land, and their monster gets lost in the woods. They have to try to capture the monster. And so the two aliens, Crowbar and Lattice, are chasing the alien creature around in the woods. And also, there's a villain trying to cash in on the skeleton, and so he takes a bunch of animals and uses alien technology to create Animala.
That's right.
Who is actually Larry Blameyer's wife in real life, but she's awesome in her black cat suit. And there's this one scene where he's telling her, because all she says is meow, meow. And he tells her, always agree. Like, we're going to go inside here. You need to pretend like you're a human woman. Always agree with me. And he's like, isn't that right, dear? And she says, always agree.
Yeah, the dinner party scene was quite.
Oh, my gosh. Funny. Yes, you have a human couple, an alien couple, an evil scientist, and an animal woman all having dinner together, pretending everything is perfectly normal. And it's so at one point, Animala just sticks her head down in the food and starts eating it out of the plate. So the two aliens, trying to think that they're pretending to be human, stick their head down the plate, start eating the food out of the plate. And then the two normal people are just like,
what is going on?
It is the greatest. It is so great. There's even a sequel.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know there was a sequel.
There is a sequel, but it is but it is so good. You have to run right out and see The Lost Skeleton
of Cadabra. Now, I will say too, just to clarify, when Van says that this is an animal woman, this is an animal that was transformed into a woman. So she looks like an actual woman, but her actions at the dinner table are more reflective of the animal. And the aliens who have taken on human form don't know human customs, so they're cueing off of this animal woman, like, let's just do what she does. So at least the two humans at the table very confused. Anyway, you have to see the movie.
This is a horror movie.
Comedy.
It's like a parody of a 50s horror sci-fi movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With aliens and monsters and mutants and stuff. Yes.
All right. Okay. Did not see that one coming, Van.
No.
But all right. Hits us with a left hook. Yep. All right, Pat. What is your number one?
Well, my number one. Well, before I do that, just Van mentioned that one, and so that got me thinking of something that we covered on Saturday Matinee Theater, and that was Alligator People.
Oh, Alligator People. That was a good one. Yeah.
That was another fun one. So that the more that we're doing this brings some memories back of some good horror or, sci-fi horror-y kind of movies like that. So I did like Alligator People. So that's
Lost
fun.
Skeleton of Cadabra was that Alligator People was one of the films that Lost Skeleton of Cadabra was paying kind of a tongue-in-cheek homage to. But that was a good film. What's your memory?
My memory back from being a kid in Halloween. Let me start with this for everybody. When would you go trick-or-treating? Would you go trick-or-treating at night, or was it in the afternoon, Delvin?
I never went trick-or-treating.
No? Okay. When was Halloween celebrated in your neighborhood then?
It was night.
Was it
nighttime.
The night? And then on Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Jason?
I would say that we got started late afternoon. Because,
like 5, 6 as
probably,
it got darker?
Yeah, about 4 or 5, I think. Okay. It's been a long time, but I definitely remember, there are a couple events in your kid life that you remember planning out. Like, you put more thought into this than they put into Operation Overlord, in World War II. It's like, okay, logistically, we've got to figure this out.
Yeah, all right, get all the candies.
Yeah, we're everybody's skipping Old Man Johnson's house because Old Man Johnson always gives us apples. Nobody wants that S. Yep. Come on. Now, old Lady Grapper, she gives out the full-size Snickers. So, we all got to hit that up. And we got to hit that first because she can run out of Snickers. Remember the Halloween of 82? That ain't happening again, son. We're getting those Snickers. So, so we planned those things out. And so we hit the streets as early as we possibly could, which is, I think, probably around 4 or 5.
Okay. And Van, what... for your area when you were a kid?
Yeah, probably like right after supper, and then it would get dark as we were heading out. Yeah.
All right. Now, for me, it was kind of the same growing up as a younger kid. It would be, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock that we would go out and start to do that. But something did happen in the area that I lived. And so it got changed to early, probably around 3 o'clock, and went for just until 6. So trick-or-treating was done right before it got dark. Seeing that, and this is the fondest the memory that I have, is that during one Halloween earlier on, somebody was taken and ended up happening, and something happened to this person, and so a younger person, and so child at the time, and so right after that happened, we in our area, trick-or-treating now became, it's on a Saturday, it's on a Sunday, every Sunday, either before or right after Halloween, depending on where it falls. And it's always like 3 to 6 during the day. So it's daylight when kids can be out trick-or-treating down no more at nighttime where, something could happen to the kids and all that. So that's something that stuck out in my memory of, times changing and what scary things can really in the real world can happen to you.
Yeah,
I don't mean to bring anybody down, but it's just that's really something
for sure
that is always on my mind.
Yeah, to me it was that I grew up in the days where everybody's afraid of somebody putting a razor blade in the candy or something,
that too. Yeah.
Or something like that. So, my mom and dad always had it was almost like a surgical table there at the kitchen table as they're going through all the pieces of candy, making sure. I mean, and we're just sitting there drooling, like, just give me that Tootsie Roll, man. Nobody's gonna put a razor blade in a Tootsie Roll. It won't even fit. That's just stupid.
What's this? What is this Tootsie Roll laced? It's just wrapped in some white powder. I don't know.
I don't know too, because I mean, Jared and I, when we grew up, when we, at least like early on when we lived in Indiana, there was always the neighborhood. You knew everybody in the neighborhood back then.
Sure.
So it wasn't a big deal for us to, she'd be like, all right, take your brother. And, so we just walk up and down the street and see our friends and, goof around and get candy. Later on though, I think, because like nowadays, I don't know, like today, in my town, it's actually kind of fun because a lot of folks go to there's the old Capitol neighborhood, because I live in Olympia, capital of Washington, so it's an older neighborhood, and they like deck out everything. There's huge just huge decorations. There's a guy that every year for the food pantry donations, he carves like hundreds of jack-o'-lanterns of just various like movie themes, like E.T. and Raiders and James Bond. He's got like all, just hundreds of different themes, and he lays them all out in the yard. So people always go walk around his yard and see all the things. There's a band that gets together and they just wander the streets at night, and they dressed up as skeletons, glow in the dark skeletons, and they're playing like marching music up and down the street. So it's I still go out just to see the house and see where the band is and watch the band, and it's fun. But yeah, definitely we, I, with my kids, it's like, nah, I'm going to go with you guys. I'm escorting my kids.
When did you stop that? When did you let them go on their own?
Oh, I think probably when they were teens. 13, 14, something maybe, like that.
Or maybe 10. It depends on if they were with a bigger crowd.
Well, if Drake was with Grant, I'd let Grant take him. Grant and his friends would go, and they were good about, taking their little brothers and things like that. So that was fine. But, as kids, nope, I'll be escorting you. And then I would always, tax them the candy. It's like 10% of your proceeds go to your escort for the evening. which is moi. So hand over those Reese's, son. Anyway, we've gotten a little bit off subject here. We're talking about our number one memories, number one films. Delvin, what's at the top of your mind here?
At the top of my mind, I thought about it, and I'm sure I could think of any other number of movies, but I'm glad this at least gave me an opportunity to think about movies that are kind of in the horror genre that I liked or went to the theaters to watch. And one that I thought of was A Quiet Place.
Oh, that was a good one. Oh man, it's another one.
Yeah, I checked out A Quiet Place. It just kind of seemed intriguing. Watching the commercials, and so Miranda and I went, and I thought it was so very well done. Very, very, very few words spoken. So it was you had to have good actors to play out those scenes. And sometimes it was just, conveying messages. Sometimes it was, they had to be in the middle of just all this like crazy action, but there wasn't a whole bunch of sound going on because these invaders that have basically taken over the United States and most of the globe were sound-based. So if they picked up on any of the sounds, they just came and just wiped you off the face of the planet. It was very well done. I'm surprised that they came out with a sequel. I didn't think it needed one. I thought the first one was so good with John Krasinski in it. I think Emily Blunt too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just a very well done, very creative movie, and it was good. I thought that the ending was kind of predictable, but the lead up and build up to it was really good. The action was really good, and I enjoyed watching it.
That reminds me of another one. I'm going to pull a Pat here again.
Go for it.
Was that one with Sandra Bullock?
Bird Box.
Bird Box.
Yeah, that was kind of freaky one too.
Yeah, that is a good one. Oh man, you guys are pulling out a bunch of ones that just skipped right out of my head. But yeah, I should have considered. Yeah, Quiet Place, man. I'll tell you, the scene that got me is like when she had to give birth and not make a sound. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Holy
yeah.
cow. That required some preparation. I was like, hats off. Yeah, you are stronger than me. That is for sure. Oh man.
I'm not even going to be able to get out of this chair without making noise.
I just remember seeing it my cats would give me away. I'm like, man, I'm like, shut the fuck up. I almost killed, man. Oh, man. I remember being in the theater and I had gotten popcorn and I didn't think about it because it's sitting in there in the movie theater and it's just like, because the premise of it, there's not a lot of sound coming from the speakers. It's just quiet in the audience and just me like, just crunching popcorn. I was like, I didn't think this went through. I should have gotten probably a quieter snack to eat here. Oh man. All right. Well, I'm going to round us out here with my number one. And I kind of gave away the ghost earlier on. In the 1990s, a little show called The X-Files came upon us. And I'll admit, I saw the advertisements for it. I thought, this looks kind of stupid. Not really. I don't think I'm feeling this one. So I avoided it. And I stumbled upon it by accident one day, because back in the day, before you had streaming services and stuff, you just kind of flip through the channels to see, sometimes you're just flipping through to see if anything catches your eye. And I stopped and I see this scene, and I remember it was from the episode with Toombs. For those of you X-Files fans who remember, Toombs is the guy who could distort his body and like crawl spaces that normal humans couldn't fit through. So he could like dislocate his legs and arms and stuff like that. And it was really grotesque. And I'm like, and I stumbled upon it. I remember the scene. He's going down a chimney and he's like dislocating his shoulder so that he could fit into this thing. And I'm like, what is this now? And so that hooked me from that moment on. And I started watching it, and I was a few minutes into it before I even realized it was the X-Files. Watched the rest of the show. I was like, this is really good. I might have to see the next one. right? And then the next one, to bring us full circle back to The Thing, was an homage to that movie where Mulder and Scully have to go up to the North Pole somewhere up there to a research station where this little creature thing has gotten into the minds. It got into the minds of the scientists up there, and they ended up killing each other. And they go to investigate. Somebody's infected and is causing all these murders. You don't know who. And I was like, okay, I see where this is going. And so I was hooked. And from that moment on, X-Files became much watched TV for me every Friday night. So that's my number one, the X-Files.
Y'all, we made it.
Yeah.
We're done. We got it.
We did it.
We did it. Woo. All right, everybody.
We don't really have any prizes to give out because Jared's usually our prize person. But well, here's what we should do, or we will do. On Wednesday, we will be recording with Jared. Let's remind Jared we can do a pulling, and because we at very minimum we have to owe it to our Crusaders Club members to pull a drawing and give them a prize. We can just announce that in the next couple of days. That sounds good, right?
That sounds like a plan. So, all right. Okay. Yep. Santa Claus is not here. He's doing a show right now. So we will get with him on Wednesday. We will put a prize package together. Can we, Delvin or Pat, can you get a recording of who all's been with us today, so we can make sure we know whose name to throw in a hat?
Do you want to? Are we going to do that second prize too? Sometimes we do that during the show. Sometimes not.
No, we'll just do that. We'll just do the Crusaders Club.
Okay.
Crusaders Club number one.
Yep. Stay tuned. Maybe on the next Doing It Live, we'll make a double one or something. So stay tuned for that one.
Yeah. But other than that, we really appreciate you guys spending your Sunday with us and entertaining us with your thoughts of your top 5 movies and Halloween memories. We just hope everybody has, for those of you with kids, have a happy and safe Halloween. Have fun. That's what Halloween's all about. If you don't have kids, why are you out trick-or-treating? Come on, grow up. No, I'm just kidding.
The hell you say? I'm bigger than you are. Give me some candy.
That's right.
We definitely want to thank Van for joining us with his top 5. Thank you, Van, for joining us.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much, dude.
Yeah.
All people want to find you. Where can they?
At Van Allen Plexico on Twitter, Van Allen Plexico, and www.plexico.net.
Make sure you pay attention because there is a lot of stuff coming out, especially since No Time to Die has been out. We just recorded something with Van, very special. We'll see what he does with that.
Yeah, I think for those of you who, for you Longbox fans that are interested in James Bond, it's James Bond Christmas right now. We finally got the gift of No Time to Die, so we got a lot of good special events planned for that. So lots of good podcasting coming up. For those of you that don't know, which I don't know who doesn't, but in case you don't know, the crew here, Pat, Delvin, Jared, and myself, we also podcast with Van and his crew over on Her Majesty's Secret Podcast. So if you have any interest in listening to us go through James Bond and spy related stuff, give that a listen. And other than that, we got lots of good fun stuff coming up here. Horror Film Face Off is coming up. We've got our movies picked out. Jared and I are watching those, so look forward to that dropping this month for Halloween, so you can enjoy that. Delvin, you got anything cool, exciting in the world to announce?
Well, we got Come Out to Play coming up on Tuesday. If you want to listen to that live stream, absolutely feel free to. other than that, Pat, if you have something, go ahead, and we need to go ahead and close it out.
Nope, I think we're all set. So thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Van, again for joining us.
All right. Well, we're going to give you the pose and then just say bye.